Okay, good morning or good afternoon, whichever. Today we're going to take a look at some of your favorite things. Now, you might not have thought they were your favorite things, but in fact they are. And all around the world, when people go to zoos and they see the elephants and the gorillas and the rhinoceri, what they're really going to see are the snakes. And in zoos, historically, snakes have always been the most popular exhibits. People are afraid of them, but they also love them. And it's kind of that love-hate relationship we have with snakes sometimes. So today what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at some good old Mississippi and Louisiana type snakes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring some out, I'm going to talk about them, I'm going to tell you a little bit about what they do, what they eat, and each one's going to have a bit of a story. And because all snakes are different and they do some pretty remarkable things. So my name is Terry Vandeventer. I live in Byram, Mississippi, just a little bit south of Jackson. And for the past 43 years, what I've been doing is spreading the good news about our friends the snakes. Everywhere I go, I point out that snakes are good things, they're not bad, they're not evil, and they're one of the most fascinating critters on the face of the earth. And when you come to your libraries or your schools or whatever, in your libraries, you can find books on snakes. And you know, we've got lots of books on southern snakes. But that's what we're going to be talking about today, is snakes that are found in the lower Mississippi Valley, and that would be Mississippi and Louisiana. So, if y'all want to see some snakes, I think we can probably do this. So let's take a look. Let's find out what a snake is really all about. Good morning. We have ourselves a real live snake, which has got to be really cool. And is this a venomous snake? No. Herpetologists, people who study snakes and reptiles, don't pick up venomous snakes in their hands. So any snake you see me pick up today, you will know automatically is a perfectly harmless snake. Now, about 60 years ago, more than 60 years ago, I was going for a walk with my mother. And we went out in the woods behind the house. It was a beautiful day, a bluebird day. The sky was blue, the birds were singing, butterflies were everywhere. And as we walked along and we looked ahead of us on the trail, that day became the best day ever. Because what did we see crossing the trail? Beautiful colors glistening in the sun. A snake. Now people might say, did you kill him? Did you throw a rock at him? Did you hit him with a stick? No way. We picked him up gently and respectfully, and we put him in a peanut butter jar. We punched holes in the lid, and my mother took me to the library. And at the ripe old age of 4, I became a herpetologist. And the snake we found that day so many years ago was this kind of snake. This is a garter snake. 3 stripes down the back, perfectly harmless. And this is the snake that got me started in my career. Now, as he moves along, we can see some things that snakes have and have not. And obviously, they have no legs. I mean, I think everybody in the world knows snakes haven't got legs. But they do have something that's, turning around here, something that's very important to them. And that is what's coming out of his mouth right there. A red and black forked tongue. Look at that. Now, some people think the tongue is a stinger. Some people think the tongue can hurt you. And since it's forked, they sometimes think the tongue is evil. But it's none of those things. The tongue is what the snake smells with. So he flips his tongue out, the little prongs on his tongue catch smells off the ground, out of the air, off my skin. This garter snake smells me with his tongue and says, that's Mr. Terry, I know you. You're the one that brings me around to schools and libraries and feeds me. So we have a beautiful little garter snake here today. What are some more things? Well, a snake is a vertebrate animal, which means he has a backbone, just like you do, except he has a very long backbone, all the way down to his tail. 200 sections to his backbone, and to each one of those, a pair of ribs. So 200 pairs of ribs running down his body. And those ribs can move, so when he eats a big frog or a toad or something, the ribs can expand and allow for that food. Or if it's a mama snake and she's got babies inside, her ribs can expand as well. So here we have a beautiful garter snake. Now, A garter snake has a heart. All snakes have a heart. You have a heart. And your heart pumps red blood just like the snake does. Your heart is shaped like a fist, not like a Valentine. But the snake's heart is right about here, about a third of the way down, and it pumps red blood just like you. Snakes breathe air, so what do they have? They have lungs. We have 2 lungs, one on each side. How many lungs does a snake have? 1. Because everything inside the snake has to be stretched out long to fit inside. And then snakes eat, they drink, they poop, just like every other animal. And then snakes feel fear, and they get excited and scared when they see a person, and they'll do everything they can to get away or stay still so that their coloration blends in with nature. Do they have hair or feathers? Nope. Snakes are covered with scales, and these scales overlap on the body just like on the shingles on the roof of your house. So the snake's skin is dry, warm, it's not slimy like people will often tell you. So, has our garter snake friend today been a gentleman? He hasn't tried to bite me, he hasn't tried to do anything bad, and that's because I'm treating him gently and with respect. That doesn't mean you can go out and just pick up any snake you see. You have to understand that when a snake sees you, you're very big, you're very scary to him, he thinks you're going to kill him and eat him. So if you see a garter snake in your yard, he's not going to act like this. If you try to pick him up, he's going to bite the fire out of you. Now there's no poison or anything, it's not going to hurt you, but it's going to hurt your mama for sure. So there we go. So let's put our little garter snake friend back in his drawer. Something that is very interesting that snakes do is this. This is the skin of a diamondback rattlesnake. Now, did I skin this snake with my knife? No way. This snake shed his skin. All snakes shed their skins, and when they shed their skins, they even shed the contact lens that fits over their eye. So you can see a perfectly clear little bubble there that protects their eye when they're out and about, because they don't have arms and legs to put in front of their face. So if you look very closely, you can see right there that clear contact lens on the head of this diamondback rattlesnake's skin. Now, all snakes shed their skins. The first thing a baby snake does when he's born is he sheds his first baby skin when he's about 10 days or 2 weeks old. The whole skin comes off. He rubs his nose against a rock or a tree, and the dead skin folds back like a hood on a jacket. And then he rubs his chin, and that pulls back. And as he crawls in a forward progression, that skin comes off, complete, without a tear, inside out, like an old sock. And then the snake is more beautiful than he'll ever be right after he sheds his skin. If you look under a skin, you see these big wide scales. We call these scutes. And these big wide scales help him to crawl, climb, swim, and do snake stuff. As herpetologists, we can look at these skins and we can tell exactly what kind of skin the snake came from. So what do birds use these for? Well, birds will gather snake skins out of the grass or out of tree branches, and they'll take them back and they'll build beautiful nests for their babies and their eggs. So snakes figure into the natural scheme of the whole world, all of nature. They have a role there that's very important. Now, if you find a snake skin, is it okay to pick it up? Sure, you can pick it up. Pick it up gently though, because it's like tissue paper and it'll tear up. So pick it up gently, fold it up, put it in a Ziploc bag, and the next time you see me at the library or at school or some event, bring your shed skin in your plastic bag, and I can look at it and tell you exactly what kind of snake left his clothes in your backyard. How's that? So is it okay to pick up a snake skin? Sure. Is it okay to pick up a snake? No. If you pick up the wrong snake, you're going to the hospital, and that's not going to be a fun time. You're going to have a bummer of a summer. So if you see a snake, what do? It is so simple. Take 2 steps back and walk away. Take 2 steps back and walk away. No snake in Mississippi can harm you if you take 2 steps back. What if you try to kill him? What if your friends say, let's get a stick? Well, most snake bites, almost all snake bites, about 80% of all snake bites happen when a person is trying to kill a snake or otherwise trying to handle it. So don't kill them, leave them alone, take 2 steps back, you'll be happy, snake will be happy, your mom will be happy, everybody will be happy. So let's move on. I'm sure you'd like to see another. All right. Wow. Snakes are elegant and graceful, and they often have the colors of jungle birds and tropical fish. And this is one of our most beautiful snakes in the southeastern United States. This is a corn snake. Red saddles down the back on an orange background. And snakes aren't always just beautiful on top. They're often very beautiful underneath. Look. Wow. Looks like a checkerboard. Looks like a piano. Looks like Legos. So there we go. Now this snake is big enough now that we can see some more things. We can see his underside. We can see that tongue going. This corn snake is an animal that farmers really like. He hangs around the cornfields, around the barn, where he eats rats and mice and helps the farmer. And anything that helps the farmer helps you, for sure. And look at that tongue going. This is Bob. Bob is a corn snake who used to live in Mrs. Vandeventer's 3rd grade classroom, and he's flipping that tongue out. So if he were out in the forest, if he were out in the woods, what would he use his tongue for? What would he smell for? Well, food, rats and mice, maybe water, a drink of water, finding his way home at night, predators, animals that would try to kill him and eat him. He sure has to smell for them. And knowing old Bob, as I do, how about a girlfriend corn snake? For sure, I think so. So that tongue's going. And being out here today, rather than in a schoolroom or a library or someplace like that, we're in natural sunshine today. And the colors of the snake are more beautiful than ever. So there he is. And was he a gentleman? I think so. He hasn't tried to bite me, right? He's just smelling all the strange new smells out here in the yard. So back he goes. We're going to take a look now at Grandma's snake. Now, you may not have realized Grandma had a snake, but she did. We're going to take a look at him right now. Check this out. We have snakes of all different flavors today. We had a corn snake, and now we have a salt and pepper snake. This is Grandma's salt and pepper snake who lived in the garden, and you better not hurt him. The name of this snake, if you look him up in a book, is a speckled king snake. And when I say king snake, a lot of people perk their ears up because they've heard of king snakes. The king snake is a snake that's known far and wide across America for his habit of eating other kinds of snakes. Now, he eats mice and rats, and he helps us that way. They eat turtle eggs, and that may seem kind of sad, but we've got plenty of turtles. But what they're known for is killing and eating venomous snakes. Now, when I say venomous, some people may think poisonous. Well, whichever you want to say, poisonous or venomous. The correct term is venomous, meaning a snake that can bite you and hurt you. Well, a king snake, if he wanted to bite a person, of course, can't hurt you. But what he does do is he hunts and he kills and he eats venomous snakes, like copperheads or cottonmouths or small rattlesnakes. So people will say, well, he's a good snake. He kills those bad snakes. Nah, not really. There's no such thing as a bad snake. And if you respect rattlesnakes and copperheads and such, you're not going to have a problem with them. But you may not want a copperhead living around the neighborhood. And if you go out in the backyard and you throw a stick at that copperhead, or you try to hit him with a brick, well, what's going to happen to you? Well, you're going to get bit, you're going to have to go to the hospital again, and it's not going to be any fun. So what you do is you take 2 steps back, walk away, go in the house, read a book on snakes. Let the king snake do his job, and he will track that copperhead through the neighborhood, along the fence and past the swing set and the sandbox. And how does he track him? You know how he tracks him, with his tongue. And he smells where he went. And when he finds him, he sneaks up on him, he strikes, and he grabs him by the neck. And in an instant, he wraps around him. He wraps all around his body, and when he wraps around him, he begins to squeeze. He wraps around him just like a telephone cord. Some of you might know what a telephone cord is. And when he wraps around him, he begins to constrict like a giant python. out of Africa or an anaconda, except on a smaller scale. The copperhead can't get his breath. He can't breathe. The king snake squeezes his heart, and when the copperhead conks out, the king snake unwinds. He smells him from his head to his tail and back to his head, and when he knows the copperhead has died, he then opens his mouth and he begins to swallow. And he swallows the venomous copperhead head first, like a big piece of snake spaghetti. So many people value the king snake, and they say he's the good snake. Well, all snakes are good for sure, but this guy living in the neighborhood might very well help to keep snakes that might be dangerous away. And so therefore, when you're out playing or running in the neighborhood and you look down and in the grass you see salt and pepper of a speckled king snake, take 2 steps back, show him some respect, and thank him for protecting the neighborhood children and pets. No other snake in Mississippi looks like this, with polka dots, so you will always know him. So if you go to visit Grandpa, you know, ask him about the king snake that lives in the barn, and ask him why he always protects him. So there we go, tongue going, smelling everything around him. All right, and back he goes. Was he a gentleman? Yeah, I think so. All my snakes, almost all my snakes are gentlemen. Okay, let's see. Here he comes, look out. All right. This guy right here is a snake that lives in the Mississippi Delta, and he also lives in Louisiana. And since a lot of the people I talk to live in Louisiana, I brought him today too. Some people will tell you that they got chased by a snake. The snakes would chase you. Well, you know, I find that kind of odd because after all, snakes don't have any what? They don't have any legs, do they? This idea of snakes chasing people is just a misinterpretation of what the snake is doing. This is a really fast guy, as snakes go. This is a blue runner, or a blue racer. His special name is a black mask racer, meaning that he's got the side of his head is black and it looks like he's wearing a disguise or wearing a mask, and he looks like a robber or a bank robber or something like that, a black mask racer. But everybody calls him a blue runner. And the story is that he will chase you. My dad got chased by one. It chased him across the pasture, and it came to a creek and stopped, and then he chased it back, and then it chased him, and they chased each other back and forth and played tag all day long till it got dark. Well, maybe my dad never realized this little boy was going to grow up and be a world-renowned snake expert, but nonetheless, my dad did get chased by a blue racer. He just told that story because it was fun. These guys, on their best day, can only go 4 miles an hour. And if you can't do better than 4 miles an hour, you need to work out, right? So, I'm an old guy. I wish they did chase people. It would make my job a whole lot easier. I'm going to break a hip trying to catch a blue racer one day. So there we go. These guys eat almost anything they can find. They eat lots of other snakes, and they do eat venomous snakes, just like our king snake. They eat lizards, they eat mice, they eat frogs, they eat almost anything they can catch. And they're pretty quick. And so there's not many things that can get away from them, for sure. Now, if you're not in the Mississippi Delta, and if you're not in Louisiana, and you're maybe Meridian or Jackson or Starkville or Hattiesburg, the very same snake is going to be solid black. And we call him a southern black racer or a black runner. And they're pretty much just exactly the same snake. They just come in 2 different flavors because of where they live, what their habitat is like. Where the animal lives, where he makes his home, is his habitat. So there we go. This guy's been a pretty good guy today. Look at that tongue going. Very, very important. If that tongue's going all the time, he's checking out everything around him. And you might be able to hear the breeze, and I'm sure there's good things floating on the breeze today that he'd like to eat. So there we go. And, all right, what a beautiful snake. And back he goes. Sometimes this is a trick, getting him back in his box, and that wasn't too bad at all. People like little bitty snakes. People like great big snakes. So as we go along, they're getting a little bit bigger. He just keeps coming and coming. Now we looked at Grandma's snake, didn't we? The king snake, the speckled king snake, the salt and pepper snake. Well, Grandma had another snake too. And a long time ago, when your grandmas were little girls, and they lived out in the country. If you live on a farm, everybody works. Everybody has a job to do on the farm. And back in those days, Grandma was just a little girl. She couldn't drive a tractor. Her legs weren't long enough. So her job every day before going to school was to get up early, grab a basket and a lantern, a light, and go out to the hen house. And when she got to the hen house, she would reach in the nest boxes into the darkness, and she would get the eggs and put them in a basket. Well, one day, she reached into the box, no eggs. And so she got a bale of hay to stand on to get taller, and she reached way back into the darkness, and she felt around for those eggs. And she came out with a great big snake. And she was holding that snake, and she was in shock. She was shaking all over, her hands were shaking, her heart was racing, her hair was standing on end, and she was so afraid she couldn't even let go. And Great Grandpa heard the noise, and he came running. And back in those days, people killed snakes. Grandpa chopped his head off, and little Grandma had to sit on that bale of hay to compose herself. Well, as people often do, Grandpa picked up the snake to see how long it was. And when he picked it up and held it up at arm's length, he saw something. He saw something interesting. He saw bump, bump, bump. What were those? Those were the chicken eggs. The snake had swallowed the eggs whole without breaking them. And if you get a book on snakes at your library or at your school, the guy that wrote the book will tell you that this snake is a rat snake. And that's his official name, and it's an important name. It tells us what he does for us, what he does for people. He eats rats and mice. But you know what I found out? That guy that wrote the book didn't grow up in Mississippi, Louisiana, did he? Because in Mississippi, Louisiana, Grandma doesn't call this a rat snake. What's she call him? A chicken snake. This is a chicken snake. One of the biggest snakes in the South. This one right here is almost, he's not quite, but he's almost 7 feet long. He can climb a tree as easily as going across the ground. He loves chicken eggs, and sometimes what we have to do is put some 1/4-inch wire fencing around the chicken houses so that the chicken snakes don't come in and get the eggs and babies. And what do they have to do then? Well, they have to go eat a bunch of rats, and that's a good thing. So there we go. How old is this guy? This guy is older than anybody in the audience. This guy is 30 years old. 30 years old, older than any librarian or teacher watching this. And so, there we go. Is he old? Yeah, probably a little bit. But there's no reason to think he's not going to continue living a cushy life right here in my laboratory and going out every day to spread the good word about why snakes are so important and so good to people. So let's put him back in his box. And, okay, go in your box. We don't have all day, do we? That's a lot of snake to get in that box. Keep going, keep going. Okay, we don't have time for this. And in he goes. All right. Let's see. Since we have, of course, people from Mississippi, people from Louisiana today, I did bring another Louisiana snake. Now the blue racer we looked at, he lives in both states, but this is a special snake that only lives in Louisiana. Very important snake. Check this guy out. He looks like chocolate chip ice cream, cookies and cream. This snake right here is the rarest snake in America. Now, what do I mean when I say rare? That means there aren't very many of them. And when something gets so rare, then they start becoming endangered species, which means if we're not careful, they can become extinct. This is a snake that was discovered a long time ago in 1920, way back before your parents were born. And since that time, only 46 had ever been found. That's a rare snake, for sure. And so my good friend, my best friend, Dr. Bob, he and I decided we would go look for this snake. And during our research, we discovered 11 more. And this is a Louisiana pine snake. He doesn't live in pine trees. but he lives in places where pine trees grow. He likes sandy areas where he can dig in the ground. He's got kind of a pointy nose, and that nose is for pushing into the sand where he catches rats and mice and gophers. The Louisiana pine snake, this is a pretty big one right here, is so rare that he is protected by law. Just like eagles are protected and polar bears are protected and things like Komodo dragons and pandas. Those are all protected because they're endangered species. So what do we do with our Louisiana pine snakes? Well, they have babies. They lay eggs every year. And those eggs go to, those babies go to the Memphis Zoo in Memphis, Tennessee. And from there, they go to U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, which is the government agency that protects our wildlife. And they take them back to Louisiana, and they release those babies back into the wild. So we will always have Louisiana pine snakes. So this is kind of like Louisiana's unofficial state snake. I think that this would be a good state snake for Louisiana because they only live in Louisiana. They're special, they're beautiful, and they live in 2 counties in Texas, but we kind of don't count them, right? So there we go, a beautiful Louisiana pine snake. This guy has never seen a pine tree because he was born in my snake laboratory, and he has been the father of many babies that are now living in the wild, born free, back in Louisiana. So there we go. The Louisiana state snake, as far as I'm concerned. So there we go. Isn't that beautiful? What a great guy. That pointy nose there for pushing in the sand. All right, back he goes. Now we have another snake that was once found in Mississippi, but we don't have him anymore. He is now extinct in Mississippi because we destroyed his habitat. But we still have him in other parts of the southeast, and maybe, who knows, maybe someday we'll have him again. And here he is. Wow. And this is a baby eastern indigo snake. He's 2 years old, and he's about 5 feet long. But when he grows up, he could reach a length of almost 10 feet. This is the biggest snake in America. They are gentle, they're harmless. I've never known one to bite. And the first snake my mother ever touched when I was a little boy was an 8-foot-long indigo snake I brought back from my first big snake hunt safari to the state of Florida. Indigo snakes require a lot of land. They require a lot of space to live on. They can't live just, out in the woods. They have to have lots of land. A male indigo snake requires like 1,600 acres, and that's the size of a small town. They get up in the morning, they go looking for food, and they may travel 5 miles in one day with no arms or legs. These guys right here are the Black Death. They are the rattlesnakes. They don't want to run into an indigo snake. They don't want to run into a king snake, but a king snake can't eat a big rattlesnake. Indigo snakes can. And so a lot of people believe that indigo snakes are good to have around. Well, rattlesnakes are good to have around as long as you show them respect. But this guy right here, he's not a constrictor. He doesn't squeeze. He's not poisonous. He's not venomous. He simply grabs the rattlesnake and he gobbles him down head first, alive and rattling. So the indigo snakes are greatly loved by a lot of people. We are saving them in Georgia and Florida by having babies and letting them go and managing habitat. Remember that word, habitat, where the animal lives. And so maybe someday, who knows, maybe someday the indigo snakes will be brought back to Mississippi. But we're going to have a change of attitude. People are going to have to understand that the only good snake is not a dead snake. The only good snake is a live snake. So there we go. The next time you see this snake, when I visit your school or library, he's going to be a little bit bigger. What do you think? What a beautiful snake. And back he goes. Okay, now we're going to look at another one here. And this one I usually don't bring to libraries. I sometimes bring to schools depending on my audience and depending on how much room we have and what the situation is like. Because we always want to understand safety and then always, apply that to anything we do. So Your moms, your dads, your teachers, your preachers, they all taught you rules for being safe. You know, look both ways before you cross the street. Don't pet strange dogs. Don't stick a fork in the toaster. Don't mess around with drugs, alcohol, and tobacco. What about snakes? Well, sometimes moms and dads don't know what to tell their children about snakes. So they might say, well, kill them or run away or scream. You know, what do? You already learned it. Take 2 steps back and walk away. That's all you have to do. So I brought a friend of mine, and I've been bringing this guy around for many, many years. And a lot of people, thousands and thousands of people, have met this guy. There we go. And we're going to put him, look at that. And I wonder, what kind of snake is this? Now, this is a timber rattlesnake. This is a snake that was once common all over Mississippi and is still fairly common through much of Louisiana. This snake is potentially a deadly snake. People have, you know, sometimes people die from a snake bite, but just not very often. Only about 5 or 6 people a year die in America from snake bite. But a lot of people do get bit. Why do they get bit? Well, they see this snake, they see he's a rattlesnake, and they say, well, rattlesnakes are bad, I better kill it. And in the process of trying to kill it, the snake will defend himself like any other animal will do. So I've been bringing this guy around for over 30 years. So this guy right here, maybe it sounds like he's old. I don't know to you. Doesn't sound like he's old to me, because we know from studying timber rattlesnakes that if they never run into a predator, an animal that will hurt them when they're little, try to eat them, and if they never run into a human being who would kill them, that these timber rattlesnakes will live to be older than 50 years old. So when someone stops to kill a rattlesnake in the road who's minding his own, business, well, they get out and they kill that snake, or they run over him. They may be killing a snake that is older than they are. And that's really sad. Why is he not rattling? There's his rattles. Every time he sheds his skin, 3 or 4 times a year, he gets a new little ring on his rattles, and those are used to make us a buzzing sound so that enemies will know he's there and they'll leave him alone. But why isn't he rattling? Well, it's not rattling because he's not afraid. He knows that nobody here is going to hurt him, and I'm handling him gently and respectfully, so there's no reason in the world for him to rattle his tail. A rattlesnake out in the woods is wearing camouflage, and it makes him very hard to see. So he would rather stay still and quiet and let you walk on by. For him to strike at you when you walk by and bite you, that's not a good move, because what's going to happen to the snake then? Well, someone's going to kill him, right? And if he rattles his tail and says, oh, here I am, I'm a rattlesnake, can you see me? Well, then someone's going to kill him. So most rattlesnakes stay quiet, still, and they say, maybe this big, tall person won't see me when they walk by. And again, the snake will be happy, you'll be happy, your mom will be happy, everybody will be happy, and the snake will go on about his business, and you'll go on and lead a healthy life. So there he is. This is how I find rattlesnakes. I treat them better than most people do. If you start whacking on him or shooting at him, you're going to see a different kind of snake. And further, isn't that a beautiful thing? So what we've done is we've talked a little bit about Mississippi and Louisiana snakes today, what they do, how they help people, what a snake is made of, and we found out a little bit about safety, what to do. We found out a little bit about safety today too, what to do when you see a snake. Take 2 steps back and walk away. Snakes are your friends, they're not your enemies. They're out here helping us every day. So read your books, check out those books. When everything gets back to normal again, I'll be seeing you at the libraries and schools. So for now, bye-bye.